an economic takeover wouldn't work. If you want 10 more states, you got to take it by force. Because
yeah, they're gonna have to come in and they're gonna have to burn down the whole system and rebuild it Americanized.
Yes, like the whole
We're gonna have to do what we did with Japan, but with you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Thumbs up in chat if everyone can hear Dylan.
Great, perfect. How have you been?
Oh yeah. Good. I was saying this is the most it's only Wednesday lemon week I've had since the last week there was news when our deputy prime minister resigned in December.
The finance minister, am I correct?
Yes, she double duty, Chrystia Freeland. She was deputy prime minister and finance minister.
Wow.
And she resigned the day before she was supposed to present the sort of fall economic statement, which sort of threw everything into chaos. So that was fun.
That had to do with them finding out, or her discovering through some mechanism, that the deficit is actually much larger than originally projected. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't her finding out because, like, she is the finance minister, so it's her budget that was larger than, but, like, yeah, so it was, like, when she presented the budget in the spring, the sort of financial guardrail she announced was there was sort of a debt to GDP ratio that they were going to maintain, which they did, but they did that with, she said they would keep the deficit under, or the debt under, or deficit under 40 billion, which we didn't.
You didn't?
It went up to, it was like 60 billion. So it was 20 billion larger than originally expected, which is not good. And part of that, I think, was just, part of that was like a lot of sort of legal settlements they had to make with First Nations people over a bunch of different things. But then there were things like the promises for this, we currently have this GST holiday, which is just a federal tax that...
oh yeah, I heard about this. It was like a gift that Trudeau announced that this Christmas season, people can like get up to, what was it, like $250 in tax rewards or something along that line?
Well, yeah, so it was going to be from January 14th to February 14th. GST was going to be taken off of a bunch of things, and GST is just sort of like this federal tax on a lot of things. And then the other part was we were going to get this $20 check, which that didn't really materialize because that was going to be a huge, like, it was funny because that was the more sort of straightforward thing that people were kind of happy with, but it would have cost so much friggin' money. And that probably would have made the deficit even larger. So we're not even going to get that anymore. So, that was already announced that wasn't happening.
I feel like we jumped straight into the deep end. Number one, do you want to turn on your camera? I turned on my camera.
Oh yes, I can turn on my camera for sure.
And the second thing is, do you want to introduce yourself for people who might not know? Because I see people in my comments like, Dylan is very progressive. You're letting a Canadian on your show. Don't you know where, we have a territorial dispute with them now, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes. I mean, I feel kind of like I'm speaking to, Iraqis in 2003. I feel like that's what's happening right now.
Well, the joke I was making, I was like, is this what the Crimeans felt in, like, I forget what year it was, like right before they got invaded? Like, this feels weird, like we're about to get annexed.
It's 2014, and you're just like, wait, wasn't that flag yellow and blue a little bit ago? What happened? Why is it coming down?
Yeah, or just you start like just hearing Putin start talk wild shit like our Crimea. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Our Quebec, our Montreal.
Yes. Oh my God, you think the Viet Cong were bad? Wait till you're dealing with militias of northern Quebec hockey teams in bunkers made out of Canadian shield. So yes,
you joke about it, but I could actually picture it right now. I could picture the American anti-French cartoons that are going to come from Quebecois car bombings. I can see it right now.
Oh, yeah, the FLQ is going to make a comeback, and they were first time Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, when he was prime minister, had tanks on the streets of...
you mean Fidel Castro?
No.
No,
I mean, like
that's not
and
true.
this
I've been told
absolutely not
adamantly.
true.
I've been told adamantly by so many beautiful bearded men in camo hats that is absolutely true. That
No, they didn't like they did like they've met like his because like they'll point to like the fact that his mom met Fidel Castro, but she met Fidel Castro like I think like 4 years after he was born.
Mhm.
It's not the timeline's all wrong. Um, but I guess to as a matter of introducing myself,
Mhm.
I'm my name is Stuart Benson. I am a Parliament Hill reporter in Ottawa, Canada's capital. So I'm like you're like a sort of like a I don't know, a Capitol Hill reporter for in the U.S. Basically, the same thing. We have a Parliament Hill. I work for the Hill Times. I also stream a bit because I have a brain sickness and I don't know where my like social life ends and my work life begins.
Mm.
So I just don't really try to draw that line. Yeah, and we've been having a real wild and crazy time the past couple of months and years. So
Yeah, it's pretty
thought we should
crazy
have a
right now
chat.
because like I'm hearing about Canadian politics, and that's crazy because I don't hear about Canadian politics like ever.
That
It's just
usually only goes one way. We
yeah,
hear about your stuff and you're blissfully unaware of us.
yeah, no, absolutely nothing. It was there was the scandal about the treatment of Native children at in those boarding schools.
The
Uh,
residential
yeah,
schools.
the residential schools. I remember that. That was something, and everything else is a blur. And now we're here. And now
Hmm.
Trudeau is collapsing. We see conservatives on the come up, and we're talking about like an annexation of Canada, like Donald Trump is like a Paradox interactive gamer, like he's just playing Civilization. We're just gonna annex this. We're just gonna annex that. And he's like,
Yeah.
and he's throwing it out. Not it's not just about Canada either. He's just like throwing it out randomly. It's Canada. It's Greenland. It's the Panama Canal. I'm trying to think what's next. I'm actually we need to do. I know Polymarket has a bunch of different like betted options, and you know they gave the Young Turks money. They can give me money if they want. That'd be beautiful. But I wonder, here's my proposal for them. Could we do one on what's the next country he's going to threaten to annex? Because I would think maybe the Philippines. You know, there's some like American historical like clay option you can make there since we, took that over from the Spanish during the Spanish-American War. I'm trying to think what else. I'm
Well,
trying to.
that was someone made that joke where it's like someone gave him a book of American history and he was working his way through it going like, "Hey, we should get that back. And we should get that back." So like, I think sequentially because if I think Panama Canal is the probably latest one or the closest one historically. So I think probably we might be getting to World War II around that or maybe World War One. So maybe he's like, we need some of those Japanese islands back, or I want West Germany again.
Maybe I could see something like that. Let's hope he doesn't get to the Vietnam War. I'm a little worried like how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Um, ugh. Actually, that's kind of scary. The idea of him just slowly going through the book and saying, "You know what? I want that. I want that." But I could see that. I could see that. Uh, God, you know what really gets me about this though? Did you see the differentiation he put between Canada and Panama and Greenland with the military force and
Yeah,
economic
that was
force?
what I clipped that because I was watching it going like, is this because it like usually when he sort of talks like that, there's a lot of sort of off the cuff feeling to some of it.
Mm-hmm.
He very much feels like he's answering a question in the moment, like what he immediately like a Rorschach test. Like he answers the question, first thought that comes to mind. But like when he's like, would you use military force to acquire Canada? And he's like, no, but maybe economic force. Like that's like they've been weighing those options, like how best to acquire Canada. It's
It's hard to
maddening.
imagine that's a real thing that they're sitting down and future Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, between his Fox News segments, and whatever, like RFK, whatever, Tulsi Gabbard bringing all of the intelligence you can imagine. And they're all sitting around the table and they're like, okay, so are we going to use an economic strategy to annex Canada? We're going to do this. I don't believe that's really happening. I refuse
Well,
to
like
believe it.
I'm afraid that we like I don't I'm afraid we can't let our like a failure of imagination because like could you have imagined a war in Europe in 2019. Maybe you were probably paying more attention than the average bear, so maybe you could have. But like, would most people have? So it's like
Probably not. No.
It's one of those things where it's like maybe we don't take them literally, but we should probably take it seriously. Like,
I mean,
we
should take it. We should take it seriously enough. I do think we should take it seriously enough. But I mean, I do think the odds of him just kind of like randomly throwing this stuff out there to see what he can kind of get out of it, I think it really is the most likely option. Which also does scare me, because if some other politician makes that calculation and then they think, well, let me just see what happens if I call his bluff, and then you put Trump in an embarrassing corner. And I wonder the type of stuff he would do in a situation like that. It might not be, oh, he's going to drop Marines down in Quebec, and then he's going to, move over and try to... But it could be, you know what, overnight at like 2 a.m. while not talking to his advisors, he announced like a 30% tariff on a crucial, Canadian or Mexican industry that sends markets into a spiral when housing prices are already ridiculously high in Canada. And there's a bunch of other issues that I know that he could try to put a little bit of the pain in. He's trying to rub a little bit of salt in the wound to try to get more favorable conditions. Yeah,
well, here's the thing. Canadians may be polite, but we're not not actually as nice as we're made out to be. Like, the old joke is, listen to how Canadians talk about Americans, listen to how Americans talk about Canadians, and then you tell me who the nice ones are. Because we're not that, like, so we've already, we went through this in 2020. Like, it wasn't 25% tariffs, but Trump made tariff threats against us in 2020, and they're sort of, I think, gaming out sort of the same game plan. So, like, there's a list of stuff, and we're not going to do a blanket tariff, but we know what your pain points are. We know you very well. Oh. So, like, we've been, like, the Canadian, like, the federal government are like, this is what's been reported that they're considering. So there's things like tariffs on steel and aluminum, Florida oranges. The last time we did a lot of Kentucky products like bourbon, because the American ambassador was from Kentucky, and is it Lindsey Graham, I believe?
Lindsey Graham.
He's also from that state. Yeah. So, like, and like steel, because a lot of those come from Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Florida oranges, because that's where Mar-a-Lago is. There's things that we can, and like, we'll do that because we don't actually want to hurt everybody, but we'll do it where it'll make the most impact to get our point across. So there is that option that Canada has. I think everyone would prefer neither side use those options, but well, I mean, not everybody, but
well, I mean, like,
the general consensus is.
This is my problem with and we can get into the, like, talk about this in actuality in a second. I think, if you want to get my take right off the bat, I think this is an aggressive negotiating tactic by Trump. Yeah. That Trump is looking at Greenland. They understand that even though, like, a lot of this is based in global warming, something he refuses to acknowledge in the first place, but as the global ice sheets continue to melt, it's going to make more raw minerals like cobalt, aluminum, copper is going to be available in Greenland's territory already. We've seen a territory the size of Connecticut melt in that area, which is going to making it extremely important. Yes, which makes it 40% faster. If those ice sheets melt, people don't realize how much faster that would be, but it's like 40. I'm talking like Trump right now. People don't realize.
No, you're doing the hand thing. I was noticing it.
His impact on culture is too mighty to admit. But it's 40% faster into Europe. From Europe into Asia, which is, it's a huge jump. And not to mention the fact that it's still strategically important because of its location between the United States and Europe for any dedicated Euro-Atlanticist. And so he wants to be aggressive towards them to get the best deal out of them. And when you listen to Danish politicians on this, when you listen to, like, Greenlanders on this, none of them want to give up Greenland to be a state. And that recent, like, PR stunt from Don Jr. going over there was not taken well, I think, by most people. But I think that they're perfectly willing to give concessions to the United States on these things and negotiate these things, because every single time I listen to their representatives, it's like, we're not willing to do talk about Greenland's future, that's for Greenlanders to decide. Now, if we want to talk about renegotiating security policy, if we want to talk about mineral rights, I'll hear that again and again and again. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think the same thing is about travel in the Panama Canal and possibly some sort of maybe, I don't know, NAFTA 3, or I don't know, NAFTA 3, whatever new trade deal that would be negotiated with Canada.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. It's like softening us up so that like the 25% tariff threat, the annexing Canada threat, so that whenever what he eventually does actually present as the thing he's going to do almost seems reasonable, or like him walking it back. It's that, what's that, the thing from the Trump movies, the attack, 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 always attack, never admit defeat sort of thing. And to add to your thing about like with the shipping lanes and the minerals, have you seen that show, The Diplomat, on Netflix?
No, I have not.
Okay, never mind, because this is kind of getting into spoilery territory.
I've been watching a lot of Antiques Roadshow.
Yes.
It's very good.
But all that to say, like, if he has Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal, he would have control over basically all the shipping routes in the northeastern seaboard.
Yeah,
like that's everything. That's the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, he wants to. It's like how do I compare this? It's like at the start of any major shooter where you have all the points, and you're just trying to rush A, D, and C so you can grab it right away, and then the rest of the game is just defense. You know?
Yeah.
He's trying to do that with major shipping lanes, and then once you add the South China Sea, I mean that's the whole game entirely.
Yeah. Okay, so that maybe he is going for Japan next.
My God. Okay, so do you think this is what's likely the case?
I think so. Like, I think that's the most likely case, is that this is like because obviously, like, he's not even president yet, so it's like this is all. I mean, like, I think it's a lot of it is bluster. There's something else coming. Like he's trying to like be like, keep your eye over here, and then gonna smack us with the other hand. But yeah, I think it's like, I don't think he's actually going to try and acquire Canada.
I will say, I do feel like there's something else in this. When I look at the public conversation towards Canada, towards Panama, towards Greenland, whether it be popular conservative commentators, American politicians, or that recent tweet, I don't know if you saw it, from the Republican Foreign Affairs
I was just going over that because I
committee.
saw you tweet that. That was friggin' wild.
It's
the
crazy.
John Lowe doctrine?
It's crazy. It's just like I called it in my tweet like a type of neo-manifest destiny because I didn't know what else to call it, because this is the type of stuff I would imagine some so-called progressive like a street preacher would be on the street in like 1830 saying we must tame the wilds out there for civilization and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, it's almost not even neo-manifest. Like, they referenced like taming the West. It's like, it's them basically going like, we have a job to finish, basically. Like, we haven't manifested the full destiny.
Let's read this on stream because some people might not be familiar with what we're talking about. And then I think we can talk about what this would mean in actuality, which I know is weird to talk about, but we have to entertain it for at least a moment, right? We have to some capacity. Okay, one moment.
I mean, when it's the Foreign Affairs Committee, the majority, that's the part at the end, that part at the end where it's like the Foreign Affairs majority.
Yeah, no, these are not the, like, this isn't like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert committee.
No.
These are supposed to be the serious, big heads on foreign policy for the Republican Party.
I was gonna say, this is on X because I can see the little stupid Grok thing up there.
What do you mean stupid? Is Grok not a side commentator for your stream? Do you not have him hooked up?
I keep asking it to draw a picture of me, and it just makes me look like Nick Fuentes with a mustache, and it's infuriating.
It's very funny. Okay, so let me read this for people watching at home. This is from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So these are the people in the House who are supposed to be working on foreign affairs issues. It goes through their committee before it would go to the House floor. So these are not only people who are the ones researching these issues predominantly, but these are also the ones that major foreign affairs issues need to go through before it can get to everybody else. Our country was built by warriors and explorers. We tamed the West, won 2 world wars, and were the first to plant our flag on the moon. President Trump has the biggest dreams for America, and it's un-American to be afraid of big dreams. And attached to that little spiel is the front page of the New York Post, which says the Don Road Doctrine, Trump's vision for the hemisphere, which has Canada as the 51st state, Greenland annexed, the Gulf of Mexico turned to the Gulf of America, which Trump has already announced. And this is why I think there's something else in this. He's already announced he's going to do that day one. Mind you, he got elected off of no tax on tips. I'm going to bring the grocery prices down, even though he's now reeled back on that promise and stuff like that. He's made, a lot of somewhat economically populist economic promises. And on first day, there's no big economic relief package promised. It's the first day. We're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Remember when we thought I'm going to build a wall and Mexico will pay for it was the most insane thing anyone had ever said. That seems quaint at this point. It's just a fence at the he's building the fence, whatever.
It's and it's only going to get worse because during the last term there were a lot of stuff that they tried to do that was cleaned up by the we'll call them statecraft keepers or I don't know what to call them, but
adults in the room, the babysitters, whoever you want to say. It felt like
we'll call them the adults in the room, right? Because that's what they were talked about when I remember the day Trump got inaugurated, I was walking around DC, people trying to calm me down with the idea of the adults in the room will stop him from doing anything crazy. And to some extent, while it was exaggerated, and it was of course a percentage of cope, but to some extent it was true that he would throw out a crazy idea, they just wouldn't move on it, they would purposely not bring it up to him again, he'd forget about it, and they'd just move on. And when I listen to him showing invasion plans of Iran to random reporters who have no clearance to see this, when I hear about him proposing invasion plans of Venezuela, or fucking the stupid Sharpie Gate stuff where he's changing like hurricane paths with his marker just so he doesn't have to admit that he was wrong about that. And we're going into an age of intensified natural disasters, so it's going to be interesting to see 4 years of Trumpian disaster response. That's going to be fantastic. But it
could be another pandemic with the way you get the bird flu stuff.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Oh my God. But I am just unbelievably taken aback by not only the odds I think our country has of facing down bad natural disasters, progressively worse natural disasters, which our country's going to have to deal with in the next 4 years, which was going to be an issue no matter which way we're going, because we still haven't really tackled the issue of climate change in any major way. We've made a bigger investment, but now much of that investment is going to be rolled back. But when the incoming administration doesn't even believe in climate change, and we're seeing the fires in LA, I feel like it diverted right now a little bit, but god damn, man. It's
the fires I've been watching those all day. It's terrifying.
It's really bad. It's very
because
bad.
I don't know I'm not good with geography. So I just I reached out to people I know in California. I'm I hope you're okay. I don't know if this is anywhere near you, but by the time you see this, maybe it is. So fucking prayers up.
Back to this though, when you're reading through this House Foreign Affairs Committee tweet, I think there's something else here besides just negotiating. I think that there's a huge amount of chauvinism in this. There's a huge amount of chest beating in this. There's a huge amount of, and I don't know why it's particularly.
Well, I think Jesse Waters might have said it best. Where I think it was on one of those panel shows.
I think I have it. I actually have it pulled up somewhere else. One moment.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can bring it up. Here it is. I'll just bring it up straight here. We can just watch it. with all the folks at home.
Canada. At first I wanted it, and I tried to divide it into 2 states.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized we'd be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally like a Texas for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. But the fact that
Yeah, you're getting a California and another Northeast.
By the way, I hate this way of thinking, by the way. You try to pretend like you're some grand conqueror of the land or of the countryside, and you come in and liberate this and liberate that through Americanism, and then immediately it's like, ooh, those are kind of a little bit too libtardy. I give up.
Yeah.
They
We
smoke
might
too
have
much
to
pot,
give
I
them the
up.
vote. Yeah. Oh, you thought
Ooh.
I thought you were the goddamn inheritors of
Wow.
Rome. The Romans didn't think twice. They're like, we're gonna conquer them. We'll give them the vote. Doesn't goddamn matter. They'll be like, have some cojones. If you want us, take us. Come and take them. Molon Labe, as the I don't think I'm saying that right, but whatever the Spartans said.
Yes, I mean, as we all know, the Roman age obviously was collapsed through homosexuality and allowing the gays to vote away all the rights, vote away their Second Amendment, vote away the First Amendment. It was an absolute disaster. And if we allow the Canadians to vote, who knows what type of wacky policies they'll institute. Actually, unironically, even though it's just funny to think about, what would be the major electoral or you think political impacts on the United States if, and this is, I know I'm not very knowledgeable about Canadian politics, and you're not maybe necessarily the most knowledgeable about all aspects of American politics, but I think if we mush our 2 knowledges together, we might be able to form one complete knowledge. Yes. So if we actually merged Canada into the United States, as silly as this all is to think about, how would that affect the Electoral College? How would that affect our voting system?
Like everyone keeps saying that the Democrats would crush, and it's like Jesse Waters said, like he was like Ontario is like California, maybe BC. But like BC doesn't have that. It depends on how you allocated the sort of the electoral college votes.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's no way you're only getting 1 new state. You got to do 10 at least, and then maybe Alaska becomes gigantic. Because I mean, I don't think you guys care. I would doubt that an American administration would care enough about the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yellowknife to make them separate things. I love the territories. I love you all, but I'm just saying that they wouldn't care. But you'd probably have to do at least 9 or 10. Maybe you'll do the Atlantic provinces as 1 state. Ontario is definitely its own state, and that's currently led. So I think that it might almost sort of run out as even. I think it may be a slight edge to the Liberals.
Mm-hmm.
We're not as lefty as I think you guys think.
But okay, maybe you're not as lefty as we think you guys, as like some people would imagine, right? Mm-hmm. But you're also not necessarily an American-style conservative when you look at your conservative movement versus there's a different type of conservatism in Canada. No, I would imagine that you guys aren't all.
Look at how many of your conservative thought leaders are Canadian.
Yeah, but I thought maybe that was because they're like, ugh, this system isn't
no, it's like
enough. Let me jump over here.
They go down there because they have those ideas and they can make more money down there. Like it's sort of circular. Where like they go down there, influence your.
You're telling me that the entire Conservative Party is Jordan Peterson's.
Do you know how many people watched that interview with Jordan Peterson and Poilievre? Have you watched that?
No, I have not watched that.
I would watch it. It's like it's honestly not bad, but yeah, no, it's like they love Jordan Peterson. They're like our conservatives love Jordan Peterson. We had the goddamn truckers. They love Poilievre went out and gave the truckers.
If Trump ran in Canada, do you think he'd win?
No, no, because you'd have to become that's the difference.
You seem to go through waves there in your decision.
If we became if you had acquired Canada prior to the 2024 election and we had voted in that election, Trump probably still would have won.
Really?
If he was I don't think he would be able to make it to prime minister in the Canadian system. Kevin
So
O'Leary tried.
you think in
he lost
2016
to
it wouldn't have
Polyev.
worked, you mean? In 2016 it wouldn't have worked. But in 2024 it would work.
No, I mean he would, like, in Canada, if he had tried to run and to become prime minister in Canada, he wouldn't have become prime minister. But if Canada had been part of America during I think 2024,
okay, I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he would win in Canada as a Canadian politician, and go on to become prime minister. But
if Canada was merged into the American system, he could succeed.
Yeah, I think Kamala probably would have still lost, and I think maybe 2016 Hillary might have won. That's the weird thing. It's like, yeah, I think Hillary probably still might have won, but then again, Hillary might not come to any of the northern provinces like she did in any of the swing states. So we would have surprised you there.
We'll get a Hillary Trudeau ticket. Vice President Trudeau under President Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. That would have been in 2016. That would have fucking in a greater America. If you had swapped like out, and then it's like Chrystia Freeland is like in the cabinet. Oh yeah, no, that if you take some of the heavy hitters from the Trudeau cabinet, put that in Hillary's sort of like camp with Trudeau as a running mate. I think you
still get Starbucks CEO as head of the labor relations board. You get all those terrible picks. Oh God.
Yeah, I think they might have. Well, I don't know if they would have won in a landslide, but they probably would have eked it out.
Yeah.
The Liberal leadership race. We just had a surprise billionaire throw his hat in the ring. Everyone waiting patiently, expectantly for the former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England to throw his hat in the ring. And then a former MP who is now a billionaire because he sold his medical technology company is like, hey, I'm also here. I also have $1 billion and I would like to lead the party.
My goodness. I remember something that really pissed me off is, J.B. Pritzker?
Yes.
I hated how they used him at the Democratic National Convention. They're running against a billionaire, a man who paints everything in gold, and when the country is tuning in to look at your party's agenda, you got a guy saying like, actually, I'm the real rich piece of shit. Yay! Yeah. It's
what if we get someone as close to a Democratic Trump as we can find on paper? And they landed on Pritzker.
And it's not like Pritzker's a particularly bad guy or anything. It's just like
that's not how it works.
The counter message to somebody like Trump, who's coming to I represent the working class. Say, no, you don't. You're rich. You grew up silver spoon, gold spoon. It's not to take the billionaire, put him in your face, and say we're actually much better at being rich than he is. That's a terrible message. It's a terrible message.
Well, I was already saying, I don't and I'm sure Mark Carney is a great politician, great guy, nothing against him. But is the billionaire former governor of 2 national banks the best guy to take on populist, common sense, affordability, Pierre Polyev? I'm prepared to be wrong, as I've been wrong on many things. But again, doing some quick napkin math, I don't see it.
How about we put forward a compromise candidate, Lauren Southern?
Yeah, well, she's currently in line to be one of 4 people who had been called to the bar in the parliament so that our speaker can tell her she's a bad girl for the tenant media shit.
Really?
And then she can continue to. Yeah, there was a really funny where she got.
Is there gonna be footage of this where we're gonna see her in some public hearing with some guy in a funny wig saying naughty naughty?
No, there won't be a funny wig, but he will be in a full black gown sitting in a throne
Well, that's you
with a
know what?
bunch of
That's good enough for
other.
me.
Yeah, no, the pageantry itself will be enough. I will 100% make sure you do not miss that
Okay, please do
because it
remind
will
me.
be. It's appointment television because she went in.
I cannot. Looking back on me debating her about Dugan's daughter's death, you know what was the last thing to go through his daughter's mind?
Oh no! Oh no!
What? I was just what? What were you? What's this reaction?
What was it? What was it?
What you're saying this as if there was going to be a punchline.
Oh, okay. All
Say
right.
like
I
as if
didn't. I,
there
it
was
was
going to be a
just an
joke.
honest question.
But yeah, I mean that was a terrorist attack. Don't you know that?
Mm-hmm.
That was a terrorist attack. You think I'd make a joke about a terrorist attack on Twitch?
No, never.
It was her steering wheel.
That's horrific. Fuck.
But
Yeah.
like I remember debating her about that, and just the fact that after that was done, I was like, it's really weird because she had these translations already, and I'm pretty sure my translations were right, but she said that they were wrong. It was like, oh no, she had Alexander Dugin's personal translator giving her translations of these quotes. What do you mean she had Alexander Dugin's personal translator? Yeah, because she was like, I knew she was friends with him, but it was to the point where she, in preparation for the conversation, was getting Dugin's translator to like help her out. And I didn't realize how like close they were. And I was like, that's like, I thought like they met once. I thought the thing was they met with Dugin once and they just vibed a little bit and they like took a picture. And I knew that I saw the picture, but the fact that she has like his personal translator on like speed dial, it could just be like, hey, yo, I'm going to be debating this 22-year-old. I think I was 22 at the time. Could you please?
Do you have like documentation that she was doing that?
I don't know. I don't have like a document or something,
Okay.
but I believe it was like public record. I think it just kind of breezed by at the time.
If you could find any sort of link or whatever, because that's maybe I mean I don't think I need to explain to you or at your the tenant media stuff.
Yeah.
The U.S. indictment. So she was summoned to a parliamentary committee to answer questions about that, and she did a whole sort of like an introductory speech, which basically boiled down to like, under advisement of my lawyer, I will be invoking my like right to not incriminate myself and will be answering questions. And then for like the next 90 minutes, no matter what question she was asked, she basically said that same phrase over and over again. Like she was asked, can you confirm your name? Oh, wait, I'm saying I've done this again. Not Lauren Southern. I'm talking about Lauren Chen.
Yep. Lauren Chen was the one who was, I mean, Lauren Southern was also involved, but Lauren Chen was,
this is why I keep doing it, because they're both involved. So Lauren Chen was the one who is in committee and that was is being called to the bar. I've done this. I have to like every time I report on this, go through a fine tooth comb that I haven't swapped Chen for Southern. But yeah, so okay, but so never mind. So the Dugan thing is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Even still, but I was like, that's almost something that maybe some members of parliament should be made aware of. But even then, like if they're like, that shows the sort of closeness they had, which is,
I mean, I think Dugan's made a lot of friends in the international far right and some of like weird circles of the left, but it's like the weird left right, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, Nazwali right, like Caleb Malpins and such, people who aren't like solidly on any one side of the spectrum.
Like, I don't know if I believe in horseshoe theory, but it's sort of like Risk, where there is that secret you can go around to the other side of the board link between Russia and Alaska that everyone always forgets about. There's definitely a side entrance that you can loop back around. It doesn't mean that everyone who's super far left will say the same things, but there's a route there.
I feel like
leads
there's like some portal somewhere in Siberia where if you go through it and you come out of it, the whole system gets a little scrambled a bit. I mean,
there's also just where like someone said where it's like politics personality precedes politics. So like before you were a fascist, you were an asshole. And I think with those people, they were contrarians first, and they've picked a justification for that contrarianism. So it's like it's less about the politics and more that like whatever you say, they're gonna find a political justification to say that's bullshit and we should do something else.
Yeah, they like to be professional opponents. They like to be professionally in the opposition. That's something that they enjoy.
Tier 1 subscription.
So yeah. I do look. I could talk about the Russians all day. I'm sure, and we can maybe move on to that in a bit. But I do want to make sure we get through the original topic first before we move on to that.
Yes.
So my point was there's just a lot of bloodthirstiness in this. I think a lot of just like Jesse Waters in this 1 second. He does say like his imperialist thirst. He wanted to get
quench his imperialist thirst. I think was the
quench his imperialist thirst is the quote. I'll play it. I'll finish it.
For the Democrats, and I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst.
You know, this is like played as a joke, but I mean, I feel it's real there. I can feel it.
Yeah. And I think you sort of touched on it with like the manifest destiny. So maybe it's not imperialist thirst for everyone, but it's like where Alexander wept when he learned there were no more worlds to conquer. With manifest destiny, when you tamed the West, there were no more worlds to conquer. And Trump has showed up and be like, actually, I found a bunch of more worlds we can conquer. There's Greenland, there's Canada, there's Mexico. We can conquer a bunch more shit. And that's, I think, where it's like sort of, it is in a way, it is like sort of reigniting that sort of like original American myth. And in the mirror thing is where it's like a couple of like maybe even a month ago, and before that, there's been a lot of like sort of debate about like Canadian identity, what it means to be Canada, because famously Trudeau had said that Canada is the first post-nationalist state or whatever, where there's no one core central like Canadian identity. He was making a bigger point, but that's been boiled down to him doing like, he's the reason why people tore down statues of John A. Macdonald and why everyone hates Canada, blah, blah, blah. But if there was anyone who could reawaken the sleeping grizzly bear of Canadian nationalism, it is Trump, where I've seen serious people, maybe in a joking manner, but because these people are making the joke, be like, do we need a nuclear program? We're like, and it's like, that leads me to like, did you see Iran's tweet?
Iran's tweet? No, I did not.
I think it's like the Iran military, where
Iran has their tweet game is wild, honestly. They do not care.
It was honestly very funny. Well, I mean, darkly funny, but yes. So the tweet. This is from Iran, under the official Iran military with a blue check. Just as we have always stood ready to support other nations, Iran is prepared to assist Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Greenland against U.S. aggression and terrorism. Because that was, and even before this tweet,
dude, Hezbollah in Greenland, it's gonna be awesome, dude. Ice Hezbollah, it's gonna be winter, dude. Dude, I want to see Hezbollah's winter camo. You can get limited edition winter headbands, brand that shit, sell that on the market. Oh my god.
Yeah, when we introduce to Hezbollah the idea of a balaclava, they're gonna shit their pants. They're like, where's this been all our lives?
I am not kidding you, man. When I was in eastern Ukraine and you're in those wide open fields mid-December and you're out there training, you're in these like armored vehicles and you're out for 30 minutes staying in the wind while you're trying to film, those balaclavas actually save your life. I swear, like my nose was like turning colors if it wasn't for the balaclava. Like actually, my god, a lifesaver.
And I mean, the Hezbollah clava, God, licking trunks, hell yeah. But that was my joke, where it's like, Canada probably doesn't have a lot of lessons that we can learn from Iran. But one of them is we have a shit ton of uranium. We have so much uranium. And you guys, we send a lot of it. Like, that's the thing where Trump's like, they don't have anything we need. And every Canadian immediately in my comments just started listing all of the shit. Like you think New York has blackouts now? The East, like Canada cuts off that hydro, and I don't think that would happen. But like we are a very integrated like sort of society, and like that's like I don't know. There are like I'm not going to say there are arguments for why there should be two countries, because I would very much oppose that. But like we have a good thing going here. And you and your ego had to come along and fuck it up.
Look, okay, I sympathize with the idea of like, look. Okay, let me be devil's advocate here for a little bit. Okay, let me be.
All you had to do was let us cook.
Let me be the good little white man in the debate class to go in there and say, okay, so about the Confederacy. No, look, so I sympathize with the idea of like, look. We both came from a somewhat similar like a background. We both came and we settled here. We both have a complex history with native tribes. We both have this fundamental idea about like constitutional republicanism that we agree with, and these things that all ties together. We all mostly speak the same language, but just like there are, Canadians that speak the French gobbledygook, we have Americans who speak the Dutch gobbledygook and German gobbledygook and all sorts of gobbledygook all across America in certain subsections of the country. Like go down to Louisiana for a bit. And so for just to dream...
Well, that's the thing. What's the one? The sort of the language in Louisiana.
The French Creole is the the big
that's
one.
basically Southern Quebecois. Like you've traced the roots of Southern Creole. That is Quebecois spoken in New Orleans.
So when you look at all of this, and you just take a moment to dream, like Lex had his dream, I have my dream. And my dream
I'm Zelensky in this.
Yes, you're Zelensky. And my dream is America
I hope the Trudeau National
adding
Airport
a few more states, you getting all those beautiful American rights, and us being bigger. And when we're bigger, everyone knows we're better because we're bigger, and therefore we have more
I would
everything.
love to see Trump try to deal and navigate through the chaos and that is Canadian federalism. Like trying to figure out because the provinces have they control their resources. Like there's no there's national resources, but like Alberta controls its oil. Ontario and Quebec control their hydro. Like there's I mean I'm probably simplifying it a bit, but watching Trump try to navigate that and deal with the premiers, like that's the thing where it's like an economic takeover wouldn't work. If you want 10 more states, you got to take it by force, because
they're gonna have to come in and they're gonna have to burn down the whole system and rebuild it Americanized.
Yes, the whole
we're gonna have to do what we did with Japan, but with you guys.
Yeah, it's the thing where it's sort of like I think a good analogy.
Oh my God! Can we make Lloyd Austin MacArthur? He's going into retirement. He needs something to do. He can be like your MacArthur. He can roll over you for like 6 years or something.
Yeah,
you're losing Trudeau. You needed somebody to take the job anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole other kettle of fish where we're trying to figure out. They're still trying to figure out how the replacing him will work. Because that's the funny thing where. So Trudeau hasn't officially he's still fully the prime minister.
But I mean, I saw him do a speech where he said he talked to his kids. His kid said, "Dad, you lost," so he gave up.
No, he told his kids, and then on Sunday, and then on Monday he told Canada that is your ceiling falling down, or
is my ceiling falling down? What?
I just saw dust fall down. So
no, I just look. I like.
Oh, you were doing a spray.
Like
Okay, that's okay.
A nice scent. Okay.
Yeah. So the wording is he said he intends to step down as prime minister and leader of the Liberal Party following a robust and nationwide search and selection of a new leader. So he's still the prime minister, no asterisks. He's not a lame duck in any way. Gotcha. He's still fully the prime minister. And then once the Liberals, I guess, elect a new leader, he will step down, and that
Once
new
they
leader
pick a better loser, because like I hate to be the bearer of bad news, right? But you guys are like, I mean, I'm not saying you guys as in you're a liberal, but the more left-leaning factions within power are fucked right now. And
Yes.
I feel like it really is a question of whether or not the Liberals are even going to be the main opposition or not. And I feel like that's the question right now. If they're going to get leadership,
could drop to either third or fourth party.
Yeah, it's bad.
Not even opposition. There's that scene in, I don't know if you've seen War Horse, where it's like they're all charging on their horses towards like I think it's a German machine gun line in the forest, and it's all of them on the horses, and then it cuts to the machine gun line, and then just the horses are running past. It kind of feels like whoever's the leader is like volunteering to lead
charge into the machine gun line. Yeah.
There was the person. Our first female prime minister. Oh God, because I keep wanting to say the wrong name, so I'm not going to say the wrong name. Just let me Google. So Kim Campbell. That's the thing that's been rolled out, is because the Liberals haven't had a female leader yet, and Canada's first female prime minister was prime minister from June 1993 until that November when she lost the election, because she took over for Brian Mulroney, and then so she was the prime minister, no asterisk, but like just she was never elected because she became the leader of the Conservative Party, became prime minister. The very next election she lost, and that's I feel like a potential fate for whoever comes on is to just win to become prime minister.
You got to take an L for your party. You got to go out there, run the best campaign you can, because if you don't, then the Conservatives are going to dominate the parliament to such an extent that it could risk undoing. This is presumably from the Liberal perspective, mind you. I'm not really that depth in your politics, but I'm presuming here because you don't want to undo the last 9 years of progress, presuming you see the last 9 years of something that was progress.
Well, I mean, that's the thing where it's like when Trudeau showed up and joined the Liberal Party, they had a handful of MPs. They were in like fourth place. They had been decimated, and the term that was used is they were out in the wilderness. And he showed up, found the corpse of the Liberal Party, skinned it, wore it as a skin suit, and the Liberal Party has been Trudeau for the past 9 years. And he came in on a wave of good feel. Everyone loved him. Sunny ways. He was the boy prince.
And now he's sunk.
Yeah, and now it's sort of completely reversed.
He's got like a 22% approval rating. I saw was the rate. It's like he's got a low approval rating than Biden right now by like 10 points.
There's the Green Party, the NDP, Bloc Québécois, NDP, and the Liberals. And did I say the Conservatives in there? Green, Bloc, NDP, Liberals, Conservatives. So there's 5 parties in the House of Commons that the Greens don't even have official party status. The Conservatives are polling that they could get 50% of the national vote among 5 parties, have a 246 seats in Parliament when you only need about 170 or so for a majority. Massive, historic potential majority they could win. And so the Liberals could go back to where they were, because that's the thing where it's like there's been no sort of like the party hasn't grown that muscle and sinew around Trudeau. So like when Trudeau leaves, it potentially just falls back into nothingness. And there was an argument from people in who supported Trudeau, or even maybe said it was smart for him to stay on, that like this is his loss to take. Why would you tarnish any potential successor by having the first chapter of their leadership being this historic loss to the Conservatives, rather than
is this something that you
closing chapter?
Is this something you agree with as well?
From a political strategy wise, it's probably better from them to switch out and, like, as it were, save a furniture. From a return to honor, my soldiers rage, sort of perspective, absolutely.
Like,
I
yeah,
agree
like
with it.
fall
He
with your
should
men, you know, fall
Yeah,
with your men
he
on the
should be the
mountaintop.
one leading the horse charge.
I
Absolutely.
I
He should-
agree morally. I agree in the same way you agree. But
Yeah.
also, if you guys don't want the conservatives to dominate literally everything, you have to run with somebody that can offer some vision outside of, how about we give you a tiny tax rebate this Christmas that probably worsens our already not great
Well, that's
deficit.
the thing where it's like I don't think I'm not miffed either way. I'm honestly kind of, I think it'd be going to be interesting covering a conservative government, because it'll be such a huge contrast to have a government that's
By the
kind
way,
of
I want everybody at home
antagonistic.
to see this, that us in the media sphere, we don't care if you guys all starve to death or if you have all your rights taken away. We just want to make sure that we can giggle and report on it and make all the money from your clicks.
Well, if you listen to Polyev, people are starving now, and they won't have to go to food banks when he becomes prime minister. So I'm actually I'm ambivalent, but like that's why where it's like it almost feels like the conservatives are gonna win anyways. So why not die with honor? They're not gonna die, but like go down you gotta fight that good fight.
You gotta take the least disastrous L possible. You gotta try to keep the ship together as much as possible going into the future.
Yeah,
if you
Trudeau
wanna...
leaves as an undefeated prime minister who served for more than a decade, and I think, considering where he is and how Canada views him, that doesn't. This
is even a stronger argument to switch him out, because then it's like, if the whole country's going to get him out of relief out of humiliating him, then it makes even more sense to switch him out, because it'll make an even bigger disaster.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where it's like, from a political strategy wise, it's probably the correct decision. But I mean, like, from a political strategy angle, it should have been much sooner.
Do you think we should compromise and just run someone else, but have Trudeau be out in like a dunk tank at the Liberal Party conference or something?
I mean, I think that might be what the Liberal leadership race might turn into, is just like, here's why I'm not gonna fuck up like the last guy. We're like, because that's what a lot of the leadership, a lot of leadership races turn into, is one, here's why all of my other colleagues suck, and here's why the last person sucked. Be right back.
Oh. As an American, the only Canadian politician I remember is Rob Ford. Well, that's the only Canadian politician you really need to remember. And I'm a little angry that the next Civ 7 is not going to have Rob Ford as a leader of Canada. I mean, look, they had Harriet Tubman as an option for the United States, and she was never a president. And I'm like, that makes sense, because Harriet Tubman is a different type of leader, and you can describe leadership in many different ways. Well, Rob Ford is also a different type of leader. He inspires me in ways as a man that another leader couldn't. So I think he should be a Civ 7 civilization leader. I think it's only fair.
I have returned.
Hey,
sorry about that.
We were just saying, you know Civilization, the game?
Yes.
So the next game they're releasing, you can have different types of leaders for nations. And so they're releasing types of leaders that weren't traditionally like presidents and stuff like that. Like Harriet Tubman is a leader for the United States, because she was a different type of leader. And I think that's really cool. And so I thought, Canada is a potential civilization. So, why can't Rob Ford be a leader for the Canadian civilization in Civ 7, which is coming out soon? I think that's only fair.
Well, they might give it to his brother, Doug, who is the current premier of Ontario. He was on Jesse Waters' program, I think, 1 or 2 days ago.
Yeah, but Rob is the fun one, and is the only one I care about, really.
Rest in peace. I have more than enough to eat at home guy. Have you seen that clip?
Yeah, I have seen that clip. That clip's fantastic. Do I have to play this clip again? You know what?
No, I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, if I think it's
many people might not know. Many people might not know.
Yeah, this is the heritage moment. Part of it. Wait, someone just rang my doorbell.
This is Canadian culture.
Play that clip though.
Yeah, here it is.
They're calling a friend of mine a prostitute. Alana is not a prostitute. She's a friend, and it makes me sick how people are saying this. So unfortunately, I have no other choice. I'm the last one to take legal action. I can't put up with it anymore. So I've named the names. Litigation will be starting shortly. I've had enough. That's why I warned you guys yesterday. Be careful what you wrote. Okay, so that's all I have to say for now. And the next thing I want to call Mayor Britannia in Hamilton and tell them that we're going to have to spank their little tiger cats. Oh, and the last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life to her. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home.
What about drinking and driving, Mayor? What about drinking?
Oh my God, man. You just have you have to respect them. You have to respect them. You just can't. My goodness.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was the last Canadian to, and like he was on Kimmel, and now his brother is all over Fox, sort of like being like, "Hey, don't annex our country because like the automotive industry in Ontario is huge.
Mm-hmm.
We send you so many cars. We build a ton of cars for you guys." Yeah.
So,
but oh yeah, go ahead.
There's one thing I wanted to break down a little bit here before I get to the actual, because I wanted to break this down a little bit more before we moved on to any other topic, because I want to make sure I can get the segment on this. So absolutely. I really am pondering the amount of people who this election pitched this last race, and I know this is a little bit of a step into American politics, but pitched this race as horrible warmonger Joe, who's sending all the weapons to Ukraine, sending all the weapons to Israel, who's doing all these really like war things, war-related things, right? Whether the weapons are good or bad, it doesn't really matter. It's all war, and war's bad, war, right? He's the warmonger. Trump, he's coming in. He didn't invade Iraq, even though he supported it, but most people forget that. But he didn't invade Iraq. He didn't do these things. He didn't start any new wars as president, is the usual pitch. And so the pitch going for Trump from a foreign policy viewpoint was, this guy is a peacemaker. He's a dove in some way. They didn't talk about how he increased drone strikes and restricted the amount of data on them. Like, none of this mattered. The fact of the matter is he didn't have an Iraq on his name. He didn't have an Afghanistan or one of these types of things on his name, even though he maintained many of these wars through his administration, right?
He continued Obama's drone strikes. Did you say that?
He not only did he continue Obama's drone strikes, he expanded Obama's drone strikes. Yeah, he increased them and then restricted the amount of data that journalists could access on them. So it was also harder to try to study exactly what was going on. So we don't know exactly how many drone strikes happened during the Trump administration. But now Trump wins, and immediately it's, we'll do Just Cause 2 in Panama. We'll invade Greenland if they don't submit to us, even though they're technically protected by the same Article 5 protections as the rest of NATO allies. They're part of Denmark. Same thing with Canada. Even if they're threatening financial pressure, I mean, considering the way that this conversation has gone, I wouldn't be that surprised if some sort of physical threat was not far behind. Where is all of this fucking peacemaking that I heard so much about? And where is all of these same people who were peaceniks just a few weeks ago, who are now coming out and posting fantasy maps of what parts of Canada their favorite states get to cannibalize?
Why? Because it wasn't about them before. Helping Ukraine, how does that make me happy as the average American citizen? But having more land, making America the sort of the tongue-in-cheek argument you made about, wouldn't it be nicer? Wouldn't it be wouldn't we all just get along and be bigger and show everyone how much strong we are? That's basically, I would say, would probably be most people's argument, is well, we're already so close, and it would make there'd be this it would be more secure. Trump almost made that argument where it was sort of a peace through strength argument. We need Canada for security reasons. So I think I don't think that the people who support it see it as a contradiction. I mean, obviously it is a contradiction, but I don't think that most of them see it as such. They see it as it being more peaceful. The same again, I don't want to make any. I'm not saying Trump is Putin, but that's kind of the argument.
No,
Putin
no.
was
By the way,
making when he
absolutely.
invaded.
No. I'm on board with Trump is kind of Putin-y. Like,
I'll
this is
let
all
you
very
do that, but
Putin-y.
these are like, and that was the kind of point I was making. Okay, this is spoilers for The Diplomat. I'm sorry, but there's a whole thing where like something happens where they squash Scottish independence because Scotland has like a nuclear sub like detection base, and if Scotland had gone independent, NATO would have lost access to that. So they draw like a line through the Atlantic, and we're like, this is where we saw all these Russian subs. These are where they disappeared, and we couldn't see it. And it's like, but on the opposite of that line is Greenland and the US. So there's trading lines, but it's also NORAD. NORAD would be like, that's who. So, like, I mean, if you want to make that comparison between Trump and Putin, like, if Trump's acting Putin-esque, then do you want Trump to have control of all of the first like notification systems for an attack on North America?
Oh, I'm excited about a lot of things in the next administration. The idea of Tulsi Gabbard having access to basically the vast majority of our intelligence resources is extremely exciting. I mean, it's certainly something that'll keep my attention, and that's, you know, I need things that preoccupy my time. So I thank the incoming administration for increasing my amount of gray hairs in my youth.
I pride myself on thank you, Mom. The genetics are great. I'll be bald by the end of this year for like not the hair on my head, because it's like Trump gets inaugurated on the 20th, and then like we have till March 24th. Parliament's prorogued for them to find a new prime minister, not just a new leader. And then that'll probably immediately lead into an election. And that's just those things. That's not counting everything else that's going to be happening while that happens.
The thing that scares me about Trump is like, and look, I'm not going to say like presidents were particularly restrained by like certain amount of like moral dilemma, or that they're all particularly dedicated to their ideology. Many of them are very self-interested, but there was some underpinning of ideology somewhere in someone like Biden or someone like Harris, or in a lot of people who could get that office, that was like, you know, it is bad what Russia is doing, on the idea that it's not legal, it's not a good framework, and not a good justification. But I was always concerned from when Donald Trump immediately responded to the invasion by saying, "Oh, dude, that's fucking genius." You know, I don't think that was his immediate reaction.
I should have thought of that.
It wasn't, "Oh my God, that's so horrific." It was like, "Oh, that's a really smart move by Putin." Like he was playing like a game of Civilization or something, and he just, you know, he just got like a good resource. Like it wasn't like these aren't real people, and that really scared me. And then when I listened to him talk about Panama, as if like our people died there because, you know, we all caught malaria while we were going on our colonial adventures, and like that's now our blood and soil myth for Panama. The way he talks about it, the way he's talking about Greenland, he's talking about it in the same way that Putin talks about Crimea and the naval port there and the military port there, that these are things that are important for Russia's sovereignty, for its security interests.
Culturally. Yeah,
culturally. And therefore, it is ours, and we can do whatever the fuck we want with it, and we're just going to take it. And look, and the world kind of accepted that the Russians could do that to a large extent at the time. I think that, you know, maybe the better position was, hey, compromise with the Ukrainians. That was the moral position, even though I think the dedicated, anti-imperialist position would be, it's their land. You got to make an agreement with them. If you could make a deal, pay them money, do something. I don't know, but if you want to have your stuff there, you have to make a deal in that way. I don't think that deal making that's their land, it's their sovereignty, so we have to come to them and make them happy, because I don't think Trump believes in that. I think that's why he thinks that was a smart move. I think that's why he's conjuring up blood and soil about Panama, and I think that's why he's saying that it's such a vital security interest in Greenland that he can make these types of military threats. And so that's the thing that scares me, because I think that same that same itch that allowed Putin to think of that way is the same thing he has. And that's, while they're not the exact same person because he didn't do all the crimes he did, and Putin hasn't done some of the crimes Trump's done, but like that same itch is there for both of them.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is a difference with Putin, but like, I think what explains Trump is he looks at geopolitics, like everything else, as like he's doing business. It's just business. That's why, like, that's why they're using, like, yeah, well, like they're talking about acquiring not annexing Canada, not invading Canada, not acquiring. It's a hostile. He's thinking of it as like a hostile takeover. Like, this is America is one business, Canada is another business. He would like to acquire Canada.
He'd like a merger.
As one of America's yeah, he wants, well, or just make America a subsidiary or an asset of the U.S. Same with Greenland. These are like he would like to. I would like to like
buy him out.
You can't buy a country, but that's how he's talking about it. I don't. There's no seller. No one's selling it. You can't just
$5.
You can't buy you can't buy 51% of Canada's stock, and now you. I mean,
$25.
Yeah. How much could a nation be, Michael? $10?
30.
But yeah. But that's the thing where he sees, and that's why he thought it was smart, because he's like, oh, I wish I had thought of that, like, somehow in my business career. Like, he's not seeing it as like the actual human reality of it. That he's seeing it through that viewpoint, I think.
I mean, it's all, I mean, I think I don't think there's any like, there's nothing attached to it outside of like deal making and what he can get out of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he starts talking, like, I don't know if you heard him say like the people of Greenland want to be part of America, they'd probably vote for it, etc. Like, it's just all complete nonsense. It's all just completely conjured up bullshit. Like, I mean, I think the hope was that somebody listening to it might not be smart enough to use a computer, or they might not be like they might not care enough to go look it up in the first place. But this is something that no one's gonna believe, but at least it's just hot air that he exudes while he's gaining leverage.
Yeah. And like I said, where it's like it's this event, this sort of loops us back to the beginning, where it's all like he's softening us up for the actual thing that he wants to do or will do.
So last thing before we move off of this, and we can talk about something else for a bit. If the United States actually invaded Canada, let's say that like it got to a point where, you know, the Canadians were just not willing to make the compromises to Trump's generous offers of annexation, and troops crossed the border, and he actually made the decision to invade. I know it's not going to happen. We don't live in, the Fallout series, whatever. But if it did, what would the reaction be from Canadian society? What do you think would play out?
Well, I mean, I think like I said, like this I've never the almost immediate reemergence of like Canadian nationalism and like this is ours, fuck off. Like a lot of, and some will say this is more the liberal view of what Canada is, but for a long time, what Canada was keeping the Americans on their side of the fence. You get your shit, we have ours, stay over there. We might do very similar, but that's your side of the fence, this is ours, sort of thing. So I think like that would be like I think the sort of, I guess, not the nuclear option, but like the last case scenario is the risk option. You just let the Russians and the Chinese through the back door. Like that, like if you want to take like that, like a lot of your first alert systems for like a nuclear attack from Russia or from a sub or an invade, like if America's going to be invaded, they're going to be invaded from Alaska, and then they're going to come down the western seaboard. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you invade us, we just let the Russians come in. And then there's a land war between Russia and the U.S. In North America. So, all right, like, I mean, that would be my thing, is just do a Temple of Solomon thing where we just bring the whole shit down on top of everybody.
You know, I could maybe believe the Chinese right now. I don't know if I'd believe a Russian landing in Alaska right now with much.
No,
maybe
but
in
they
20
could
years.
like I feel like they probably have a bunch of subs just waiting just outside and could launch a bunch of rockets.
I'm sure they could launch stuff. That's for sure. They could blow stuff up
and get them a lot deeper and closer into North America without the pre-warning from flying all the way over Canada. Like that's, I think one of the that's one of the things that Canada has been like a human meat shield for the U.S. if the Russians or the Chinese ever fired like you gave us nukes during the Cold War, so that we could fire them for you because they'd get to Russia quicker. Like and also again the phrase Geneva suggestion, we came up with that. We're the reason that exists. Read your history books about what the shit Canada got up to in World War I. That, I think, would be the reaction if U.S. actually invaded. I don't know if we'd win, but we'd make it hurt.
It's just I'm just so baffled by just all of the signaling one direction on the campaign trail of the peacemaker. He's the peacemaker. The world is so much in chaos that he's not even in office. He's causing so much chaos diplomatically, and if any of this was to actually get the trigger pulled on it, would mean like Americans like coming home in coffins when we couldn't even send weapons overseas, with it being like considered like too much chaos for American foreign policy, too much risk, too much expense. But now we're gonna not only do that, expend weapons, but blow up our weapons and expend lives, and it's for me. This is why I won't be that surprised if a country ends up calling his bluff, which is the one moment where I'm going to be most fearful, because I don't think Trump wants to risk getting embarrassed.
No. And I think like it's because he sort of knows how like the other thing where it's like the first time around, the quote unquote adults in the room were able to, I guess, be as effective as they were. And you can debate how effective they were, but they were because they were dealing with metaphorically a child to politics. Trump didn't really know how many of these levers worked. It was his first time doing the job. This is his second go around. He's more experienced this time. So he'll probably be a lot harder to sort of dissuade or whatever. And he'll know to not surround himself with the people that would dissuade him from those things. Mm-hmm. So like, again, like it is one of those things where like everyone says stand up to a bully, but there's that scene in Recess where like I think it's Gus is getting bullied and he stands up to the bully and the bully kicks the shit out of him until the rest of the gang shows up to help him. Like that's the thing where it like if you do like call his bluff, it's not like a Saturday morning cartoon where he's just gonna, oh no, I'm a coward actually, where I'm not gonna retaliate. He's going to be like, actually, I'm bigger than you. And I'm going to kick the crap out of you, either economically or with literal force.
Even in some instances where it wouldn't make much sense out of what they would gain by pulling the trigger on something like that, they might be able to convince themselves that if they don't pull the trigger, they're going to lose a certain amount of credibility and deterrence and respect for being able to use the same tactic in the future and get stuff for nothing else outside of like a little bit of strong arming, and they're going to go through with it just so they can prove that they can make good on their threats. And so it's a lot of times somebody would think they've done the calculation right, because they're like, well, we know that if they were to attack us, they'd lose this much, which would cost more than what they even want out of us. So, but sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes you're just one part of a much bigger picture or a strategy that they want to uphold.
Yeah. And I think probably...
And Trump loves the madman thing. He loves that perception of himself.
Canada probably has, if we're being realistic, not that much to worry about on that front.
No.
I am maybe a little concerned about Mexico.
I'm also worried about Panama. I think he might... He gets like in his mind, like Panama, anything that's in South America, he's like, I think that's okay to invade. I don't think he'd do Greenland. I think Panama is within the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like it because that's would be one of them that would try to like stand up to him. Like, I think you saw the Mexican president. I forget what she said today, but like that, like they've already sort of been kind of priming that with sort of like you heard Fox pundits being like, we should invade Mexico.
Yeah, and
sort
there's
of thing.
some advisors, some people who are advising Trump that have said that they want to send troops into Mexico to fight the cartels with or without the consent of the Mexican government.
Mm-hmm. Which would be an invasion.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's like that. Like that's I think probably the biggest concern is I don't think Canada like he would like even Trump was like we wouldn't do military force but economic force. So a trade war maybe that is a definite concern I think. I don't think anyone in Canada is seriously concerned that we're going to get invaded by the US. I think we are like it's the concern is the economic stuff.
And
like,
there seems to be real concerns because the finance minister that resigned, one of the reasons she gave was that Trudeau would not be able to deal with Trump pressures, which is that surprised me. I mean, after 9 years in the office, you would imagine that they'd have that basic confidence in him to.
Well, there's a part of that where the flip side of that is maybe when she says that what Freeland meant was that she felt she was not going to actually be leading that. Because if you'll recall, like the first time around in the first Trump presidency, Chrystia Freeland led the sort of, she was captain of Team Canada. She led that for Trudeau. Even though when she was said she was resigning, it was because she was told she was being shuffled out of finance and was going to be tasked with leading the Canada-US relations. But when Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago, and then when he didn't bring Freeland, he brought Dominic LeBlanc, the new finance minister. So there's a part where when she says, I don't think there's a part where maybe she was like, well, I'm not going to be leading this, I think I should be leading this. And if you're not going to put me on it, I'm not going to stay around. And there was this has never been confirmed, but sort of the rumor was that at some point after meeting Chrystia Freeland, Trump said, I never want to be in a room with that woman again. So it's like that. And I mean, if you know anything about Chrystia Freeland, unsurprising that a man like Trump would not like Freeland.
Is she very strong-headed woman?
Very strong, competent, intelligent woman who is it would be not surprising to me that he would not like her. And that is, I feel like I don't have to explain that. I intend that as a compliment to Freeland. So I think there was always that hanging over it, and it's just sort of she decided that she'd taken enough, and then coupled that with being she'd been told that on the Friday, and then was told she was expected to still present this $20 billion over budget federal economic statement. And it's there's a reason why companies fire you on a Friday and then don't tell you, actually, can you be in on Monday to present the Q4 numbers for the company? No, they fire you and tell you to go home and don't come back. They don't fire you and then give you more work to do with that job and hope you do a good job. So there's a part of that where you're like, how did you not know that was coming?
Dark Canuck, thank you so much for the $3 Canadian. Yeah, I'm wearing my flannel in solidarity with Canada. That's the idea. Yeah. I appreciate it. I think I got through most of my Canada stuff. Outside of that, I guess I would say, so you think strategically it was the right move for Trudeau to resign after 9 years, but emotionally you wanted to see him fall on the sword, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not even fall into the sword, but just sort of this is your charge to lead. And if it ends you're the general that led the army to this point, and if you've led them to a defeat, then
lead from the front.
You don't assign it to someone else to continue leading so that you can go home unscathed.
So let's say this is the end of Trudeau. He resigns in a month or two. He's taken over by somebody, whoever it's going to be, who knows. I think it has to be an Anglophone because last time it was a Francophone, or no?
No, you like.
Does any of this matter? Or is this all bullshit?
There's a bit. So one of the another favorite who's sort of an outsider, kind of like a more conservative coded, and a woman, Christy Clark. She was the former premier of BC. She's sort of in the conversation of people who can run. And everyone says she would do phenomenally well. However, she cannot speak French. Like she's learning French, she's getting better, but it's not to the standard of like she could have like a conversation and you would know immediately that she's like practicing Duolingo at home. And that will not, like, Pierre Poilievre has really good French. And she might as well not show up to the French debate with her level of French, because she'll just get outclassed. And the only place where Pierre Poilievre is not winning, is not in the lead, the only province is Quebec. Quebec is one of the four like legs of the table, or four pillars of the Liberals. And if she can't speak French, it's going to be a real big. It's not one of these things where they have to go back and forth. Mm-hmm. Like almost all of the successful Liberal prime ministers have been Quebecois.
Damn.
Or had really good French, and I
heard the next one had to. I thought there was like a cycle. It was Anglophone, Francophone, Anglophone, Francophone. Or was that nonsense?
There's no rule or custom to that. Maybe if you go like back for their like the actual pattern of their last leaders, maybe it follows that pattern. But if you actually look, the ones that have won have all been either Quebecois or had very good French.
Okay, well,
to a point where
the point I was getting to, this is all beside the point anyway. Trudeau hangs up a hat, hands it over to the next person. What is Trudeau's legacy? Because for most Americans looking at Trudeau, all we know is that he was the guy who was young. His father was involved in politics to some extent, so he came from some dynasty, and that he was cute. And therefore, he was the cute Canadian prime minister that represented like free healthcare or whatever, because that's what Canada is to Americans, right? So for most Americans, we have no clue really what his legacy is. Even though he's been prime minister for 9 years, that's longer than any recent American president's able to be president of the United States. So if he was to step away now, as it looks like it's happening. What's his legacy, and how does that change based upon the Liberal Party's performance in this election? Does it change at all?
Yeah, no, I don't think his legacy will be affected by the performance of the Liberals in the next election, because I think even now that's baked in. I think if the outcome changes, or it's improved somewhat and they don't lose as badly as they're expected to, or like miracle of miracles, the Conservatives win and it's only a minority, and that sounds nuts if you are paying attention to the polling. But like, as far as his legacy, so one easy one is cannabis legalization. That's like he made cannabis legal in like nationwide. This one's and like I'll go the good and the best. So this one's kind of controversial, but when he was running for the leadership, one of the promises he made was that he would get rid of all of the boil water advisories on every First Nation community in Canada, because chronically up until that point, I don't know if it's all of them, but it might as well have been every single First Nation community had just not potable water, like water that you had to, basically, as its term suggests, all of the people, anyone who was connected to the water was advised to boil the water before they consumed it. And in a lot of places, like, you couldn't even bathe in the water. It would make you sick. So and there has been progress on that. brought in, they have gotten rid of a lot of the boil water advisories. But the problem is when you promise to do all of them, everyone just focuses on the ones you didn't get. So he didn't fulfill that promise completely, but that is one of them. We now have, there's like $10 a day childcare. There's like we brought in now
childcare is actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can get it, it's not a universal program, but for
like low income households?
Yes, it's sort of a subsidy. So the government subsidizes this program so that like the charge is $10 a day. He's expanded, introduced just recently like a pharmacare program that initially will make contraceptives and diabetes medication free. Which, if you're diabetic, well, it was if they had more time, they said they would have expanded it to other things to make it truly like universal pharmacare. Dental care, they've introduced dental care for low income Canadians and seniors, which is a national program. I said there's I mean this is another one that's super controversial. This is the carbon tax. And that one actually may be affected by the outcome of this election, because one of the first questions any of these liberal leadership contestants will be asked is, do you think we should get rid of the carbon tax? Because Poilievre, his whole thing is this should be a carbon tax election, an election on whether we keep the carbon tax. Do you know that's like a tax on like carbon emissions?
Yeah, tax for companies or for like individuals?
It's on like companies. Individuals get a carbon tax rebate, so we get like some money back from like every 3 or 4 months in Canada for that. And it's like, so but like the argument from the Conservatives is that tax is on everyone because it taxes the people who grow the food and who truck the food and who package the food, all that shit. I'm just repeating conservative talking points at this point. So that one, like
that's fine. You know, I'm happy having right wing guests on. You know, we're a left wing show, but we have a lot of different people. You know,
I am wearing the blue, so. But that's the thing where depending on what the winner comes out and says, well, actually, we're gonna scrap the carbon tax. Like two of his main legacy pieces and things he can hang his hat on is the carbon tax and cannabis legalization. Another one that I think people may not have reckoned with yet is gender balanced cabinet. And you actually may it actually spawned a right wing meme because it's the current year.
Mm-hmm.
You may have heard that. So when
I need to catch you up.
So in 2015, when he first became prime minister, he introduced his cabinet. So it's all the members of his party who will be finance minister, all the different ministers. And it was gender balanced. So the same amount of men as there were women. Yep. And he was asked, why did you think it was important to have a gender balanced cabinet? And he answered simply, because it's 2015. And I would reckon that Poilievre, when he is elected, will have as close to a balanced cabinet as possible. And I think that will be a legacy. We don't
got anything like that on our side. Oh my God. Did you see Trump's cabinet picks? Oh my God.
Yes. Because no one set that standard and like come out and owned it and be like, I'm doing it specifically so it is gender balanced. Because now, like, if Poilievre comes out and his cabinet is like 70% men and 30% women, that's gonna be a headache. And he'll just I would
just to avoid the issue. Do you think?
Yeah, I'd put five. I would probably I'll make you this bet five, like with plus or minus 2. So either 2 more men or 2 more women away from balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I think he will have a balanced cabinet.
How many cabinet positions are there?
However many he wants. That's the thing where he can just make a new cabinet position out of thin air. Trudeau's done that a lot. Like the cabinet inflation is a legitimate issue in federal politics because they all get their own driver and they all get a pay bump and stuff. So it expands, and there's because unlike
That is
yours,
beautiful. I'm sorry, as a somebody who lives in the Maryland area, therefore lives next to a lot of bureaucrats. From the bureaucrat perspective, that is like pornography.
Yeah, well, like with the Trump cabinet, they don't all have to be elected members of Congress or the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they? Or they can just be a dude he hires.
They could just be a
from the
dude. They
outside?
could. I mean, technically, I could be chosen as a cabinet member if they wanted to. It could be anybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would now have to check because I don't know if you do actually have to be elected to be part of cabinet. But generally, the cabinet is filled with members of parliament. So people from your caucus. And there's political gamesmanship. So it's like if you want to keep someone who's being unruly.
Wait,
and
you
get them
can't
on
have
your
somebody
side.
in your cabinet who isn't elected in Canada?
That, now that you mention, I don't know if there's a specific rule saying that, but like currently there isn't, and like there was a lot of talk
because
about,
I just would imagine, like, if you had like a position for health minister, right, and you want to hire the best person, but the best person is a doctor who isn't elected, would there really be?
The normal practice would be you would find them a safe riding somewhere, have the current person who is in that seat from your party resign, call a by-election, have them run in it, have them win, and now they're in cabinet.
That seems like a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, this Mark Carney guy is the former bank. Like previously, there was rumors that he might be brought on to replace Freeland as finance minister. That's apparently what was happening that Friday when she was told she was being shuffled out. She was being told she was being shuffled out and was going to be replaced by Carney. And the big question everyone had was like, well, how can he be in cabinet if he's not either a member of parliament or a senator? Will he just get appointed to the Senate and then be put in cabinet? There was never a question of he would be in cabinet without being elected to government. I don't know if there was ever a rule, but the expectation was always he would become part. If he was in the cabinet, he would be either a senator or a member of parliament.
So back to Justin Trudeau's
and
legacy.
Actually, you know what? It might actually be a rule because we have question period, which is when the opposition parties get to question government and they get to question cabinet officials and ask them questions. So it would be a very problematic if the finance minister couldn't answer questions during question period.
So Justin Trudeau, carbon tax, marijuana legalization, those you would say are his two biggest accomplishments.
The two biggest ones I can think: the carbon tax and the boil water advisories that were removed. Do
you have any personal reflections on Trudeau? Like, if I was to come to you and I was like, I'm a new Canadian voter, you know, I'm choosing, like, you know, I'm trying to figure out what decade we're leaving. Like, who is Trudeau, man? Who is Trudeau to you?
Well, it's because he is the I mean, I think probably if I was going to say it in the most nonpartisan, like most just, he's the prime minister of my kind of my youth, kind of, because he got elected. I remember a lot of my friends in my sort of first couple of years of university, like going out and phone banking for him and getting really excited. He was sort of he got people sort of excited about Canadian politics and wanted to get in, and so that, I think that was probably this is the prime minister of my youth. And now that, so it does kind of feel like now that I'm entering into my 30s, he's no longer prime minister. So I think that's probably the most apt is I will associate his government with my 20s, I think.
Okay. That's a good era in somebody's life to be associated with, the 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I would say generally it's I have more but that's the thing where it's because it's not just there's good things that I associate with that. There's also a lot of negative things that I associate with that, and and that's true of both my 20s and Trudeau. The current, I don't think he's I'm not gonna put a fuck Trudeau flag on my truck anytime soon, probably because I don't have a truck. But like, I think people do have general like the stuff about him. Like, you can make the argument that we brought in so many more immigrants and international students and foreign workers because it's probably one of the few things that stopped us from going into an actual recession after COVID. Like, the provinces were demanding it, industry demanded it, the economy demanded it, and he did. And but there's
Mr. Economy.
Well, I don't know how you say
Mr. Economy himself demanded it.
Yes, the economy anthropomorphized itself, walked up to Parliament Hill and said, "I demand it." But
Wow.
what I mean by demand it was it's like I think there's a couple of different factors that mark whether something's in a recession, and you have to hit all three. So the one marker that kept us from not officially being in a recession was population growth. And we were getting the majority of that population growth, or I think almost all of it, from new Canadians immigrating to the country. So that was a choice they made after COVID to sort of stave that off. But like, when you bring all these people in, they need somewhere to live. They need a place to work. There needs to be infrastructure for them. And the speed at which that we had to bring new people in to maintain that level of population growth was faster than like all of that housing and jobs and infrastructure growth could keep up with, which we're now sort of dealing with the impacts of.
I mean, everything I'm hearing about right now is the housing crisis that you guys are dealing with. That it's just like awful. The price increases that people are dealing with right now, and a lot of people are seemingly placing that blame on the amount of temporary foreign workers in the country, and saying that
it's not entirely like one. I think people with memory hold what happened during
by the way,
pandemic.
I'm just saying. By the way, I'm not. This is not like a Trump thing where I'm saying people are saying like I'm like claiming like, oh, the crowd's off. I'm telling you what I'm actually hearing from people, because it's all I'm hearing. Just from the
I agree. I've 100. That is 100%. Like, legitimately how a lot of people feel, and that's not untrue. But it's like and I don't think it's just temporary foreign workers. It's just sort of a simple math. Like, if you bring in 100 new people, you need 100 new houses, and you can only build a certain amount of houses in a certain time period, no matter how perfect of the conditions they are. It's just that physically you can only do so much in a certain amount of time.
And this applies to all services too. Like, all these people are going to need dentists. They're going to need clerks. They're going to need whatever.
Yeah, so it's simple supply and demand. The demand shot up way faster than the supply. But also, like, during COVID, you had huge skyrocketing housing and rental prices, and that was all domestic from people like trying to flee the cities and buy houses like outside of it, or like, and maybe not even selling their homes. And then there's like the Airbnb and the rental stuff, and like international students again also, because if you're a landlord, what would you rather do? Just economically, take in a single rent from a family of 5, or 5 rents from 5 international students?
Well, the 5 rents, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what most landlords went with, and that's why like the house. So it's like the amount of like single family homes that were available shrunk, because they're now being rented out to multiple single individuals.
Has this made the dialogue in your country more racist? Just to get to the blunt end of it.
Yeah.
Like, is it like now everybody's like, oh, the Indians took all of our houses? Oh, is it now like that?
I mean, it's not to the level of like the States, but it's absolutely happening, and it's starting to bubble up. Like, there, like the whole, like, there was like, immigration was not a controversial issue maybe even 2 or 3 years ago.
I mean, the polling seemed to indicate that Canadians were largely pro-immigration.
Yeah, like largely for for Canada, almost everyone understood that our like success came from new Canadians coming in, and like and growing that way. But because it just came in too fast, too quick, and like we brought in a lot of foreign students from China and India. That's just where they came from, and that's been the focus of a lot of the racism. Has been you tack on to that the sort of the concerns around foreign interference, which are legitimate from the governments of India and China, but obviously that's going to blow back and have
those assassinations recently from the Indian government. Oh my God. I mean, they're saying that's rogue agents and stuff, but that is wild. For those of you who don't know, there is, and please correct me where I missed, because this is not my area of expertise, but there is a movement, a separatist movement of people born largely from the I'm blanking on the name.
The Sikh separatist.
From the Sikh, Sikh separatist movement that is no longer that dominant in the areas of in India that it's originally from. There still is support there, but now it's really powerful, especially in the diaspora, especially in Canada, and the Indians really hate that shit really a lot because they're really big on their borders.
And it goes deep because the Air India bombing was conducted and I think partially planned by Sikhs in Canada while they were in it goes back for a while. It's I think completely unfair to try and tar the current Khalistan movement or something that happened in the 80s.
Yeah, and especially just to violate the sovereignty of Canada and just like doing extrajudicial assassinations on their territory.
Those two things are not connected. We're not in So I think those are two, but that's just to say that this is not something that's just happened 2 years ago and just out of nowhere. There's been this sort of. It goes back to even Harper.
So for those of you who don't know, these independence advocates for the Sikhs just start dropping dead in Canada because they start getting assassinated by, while we still don't know everything, but presumably Indian agents. That right now the most favorable argument for the Indian government is that these were rogue agents going off and just assassinating based off of one bureaucrat's dreams, but it's kind of hard to believe that this knowledge wouldn't at least get back, or it wouldn't be stopped after the first signs of trouble. Either way, there was Indian agents assassinated Sikh independence advocates in Canada who were planning no terror attacks whatsoever, as far as we know.
Yeah, and this was the sort of the shocking moment when Trudeau. This was in the fall of last year. I think it was in September. He stood up in the House of Commons and just announced that Canada had credible intelligence, his words, that agents of the Indian government were involved in the assassination of a Sikh activist called Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, BC. And this was as he was coming out of his Gurdwara, which is their place of worship. That we've had a couple of other ones where there's been attacks on Gurdwaras. There's also been sort of protests that have turned violent outside of Hindu temples in Canada. So that's also sort of added to, I guess, what I would say is xenophobic sentiment, where it's Canadians who would argue that Trudeau has imported these
conflicts,
these sectarian conflicts from around the world into Canada. And they'll say the same thing about Israel Palestine, or I mean, oddly, it doesn't get said about Ukraine Russia, but that they'll say it about those two things. It's the work with the Sikh India thing, where all of this immigration has imported this here, and now we have to deal with it, and that's the problem.
Man, I'm sorry. Anytime I think about Canada and Ukraine at the same time, I just can't get it out of my mind. You guys really screwed them over, huh? You just had to march out your freedom fighter.
Yeah.
Just, oh my God. Oh my
Well,
God.
that was the thing. Was just like we just opened. I think in December opened our Victims of Communism memorial.
Yeah,
You've seen that, right?
yeah. You abused me with it on stream. You abused my brain with it.
It's definitely interesting. But they were going to have a list of names on the memorial that you could search up as like, here are the victims of communism. But that list has not been released yet, with most people assuming that they're not confident that no one on that list is a repeat of Hunka. Where it's like they're a victim of communism. Oh, why? Well, because they lost a battle while fighting for the Third Reich. That sort of thing. Like it was that kind of like sort of fervor where no one went like, because of the current conflict in Ukraine, everyone heard fought against the Russians in World War II, and no one went, wait, what side? What do you mean? When did they fight against the Russians in World War II?
Oh boy. So
we really
bad.
fucked that one up.
I mean, like, what?
Really
it's not like Zelensky had no clue either. He wasn't like debriefed on this beforehand. He just kind of came
I don't think
here.
anyone knew.
It was
no one did any double checks.
Oh my God!
That was the thing where the speaker was the one who kind of screwed that up.
I find it so funny because the supposed Ukrainian Nazi president comes over here, who's actually a Jew, by the way, comes over here. You know, he's been dealing with, he deals with internal anti-Semitism, because that's a real problem in Ukraine, as it is in many places across the world. He's dealing with accusations of Nazism and all of this, and he comes over to Canada as the first Jewish president of Ukraine in history, his family was genocided and targeted by the death squads, comes to Canada, sits down, and then in progressive Canada, they're supposed to be like, tricked
into giving a round of applause for a man who very well likely was in those death squads.
Oh God.
We couldn't have fucked up harder. We served that up on a silver platter. It's real bad.
Man, it's not good. Not good.
Mm-hmm.
But in progressive Canada, beautiful progressive Canada.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you wanted to talk about? I've been kind of dominating the conversation, dragging it every which way.
I mean, I guess if how much do you understand about how our system works and how the parliamentary system works? Because that's the sort of thing where it's like they're not just picking a new leader. Like, this is imagine if Biden said he was stepping down as president.
Yeah.
Like, his whole administration, he was dissolving his whole administration.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, the federal government's gonna run on quote unquote caretaker mode. So just anything that was already happening will continue to happen, but no new stuff is gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna continue until we allow the Democrats to do an entire new primary, pick a new candidate. That candidate immediately becomes president.
Very chaotic, it seems.
It's the parliamentary system, so yeah, very. But in our system, we don't elect a prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Trudeau is the member of parliament for Papineau. So this is my kind of thing where I went through the transcript and I went through his speech. He never said he wouldn't run in the next election. He never said he was resigning from his seat. He just said he wouldn't lead the party and he would resign as the leader of the party and prime minister. So even after he steps down, he would still technically be in parliament as a member of the government under this new prime minister. He'll just be the member for Papineau.
Mm-hmm.
So the prime minister is whichever party has the most seats. So because they still have the most seats, Poilievre will not be our next prime minister. It's whoever they choose in this leadership election. So it's just like the stakes of this are incredibly high. And also, with that being said, who do you think is allowed to vote in this contest? Like, what do you think that? What do you think?
Party
the
members,
cutoff?
maybe? I would imagine party members.
Yeah, so party members. So what do you so like that's what I'm so that's basically what I'm asking. So what do you think the parameters for being a party member are, which also means in this instance, what do you need to be to install the next prime minister?
I imagine you would need to be dues paying, maybe a dues paying party member. That you registered beforehand, and
so as it stands, yes, you have to they might change these rules. Well, the point I'm getting at is, you would imagine that all of those people have to be citizens, right, and of voting age?
Yeah, of course.
Wrong. You just have to be a 14-year-old who normally resides in Canada. So if you're 14 and you have a document that says I live at this address, you will be allowed to vote.
Can I go vote in Canada then? If I go and I hang out enough in Canada?
If you can get to Canada, find a place of residence, and become a member of the Liberal Party, yes. You like international students. Know how we said all that discussion about how many we had a huge influx of international students from China and India. All of those international students, if they're members of the Liberal Party, can vote for our next prime minister.
What was that one? I think their color was purple last election. What was their name?
That was the PPC.
Oh yeah, can I become one of their party members? Can I?
I'm sure they'd love to have you. They would. Yeah, I'm sure. Like you could probably take over from Bernier pretty easily.
Okay, that's good to know.
You might have to say a bunch of bullshit that you don't believe, but I think you could do it.
Oh, I could. Dude, I mean, come on.
And like we've been having a whole foreign interference thing. Like in the previous, like in the 21 election, there was a Liberal MP that during his nomination election, so the election to see who would be the Liberal candidate to run in the election, there were allegations that there were busloads of international students from China who were bussed into the nomination vote so that they could vote for this candidate, and that was put up as an instance of foreign interference, because the Chinese government can say, hey, they can call up and be like, hey, we're going to revoke your visa if you don't do this. That's the sort of allegation, was that they were all sent there because Han Dong allegedly was the preferred candidate of the CCP. So they all bust him in. Problem is that Han Dong probably legitimately didn't remember that busload of Chinese international students, because it was probably one of many of a fleet of buses that were sent in by every candidate, filled with all sorts of community members, from seniors to different diaspora international students, many of them with a name written on their hand.
Extremely low standard, though. It is
incredibly low, and especially in a contest that is directly voting on who will become prime minister. Even if it's for only a couple of days, it will directly be voting on who the next prime minister is.
Yeah, because I remember seeing people, and I remember in my city, they tried to change it so that, non-citizens could vote in city elections. And the argument was that since it was city elections, it's not federal elections, therefore it might be constitutional. And there was a legitimate debate to be going back and forth.
Yeah, it's like you're an international student, you live there. So like the municipal decisions about snow plowing and garbage pickup, maybe you should have a say in that, because you are what?
Yeah, there was a question about legality, but there's an argument. But when you talk about the federal government, I mean, it is very clear. I mean, it's clear and cut in the Constitution that you have to be a citizen to do that. That's wild that they can do that. And at 14, too, a 14-year-old foreign student could vote in the Liberal Party if they join. Yeah. Put in the effort.
And prior to all of this concern about Russian interference, Chinese interference, Indian government interference, or foreign interference of any foreign government. Before all these conversations, the sort of the argument, and it, like most people kind of accepted it because they're a private institution. They can do what they want. They can make their own rules about how they determine who their nominees are. Same argument the Democrats and the Republicans make. They would say, well, it's 14 years old and people who are maybe temporary residents in Canada who are on the path to becoming citizens, or young people who are interested in politics, and this is a way to give them a sort of a teaser of the democratic process. They're not participating in the actual election. They're just participating in our internal nomination processes.
But that could be, in certain scenarios, more important than even the general election, especially if a certain party was dominant. You know.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Because we're a parliamentary system, so we have like the country split up into ridings. So each MP represents one of those ridings.
Mm-hmm.
That party with the most ridings wins. And similar to like in the States, there are safe seats. So there's seats insert like where the polling will say it's like basically you could run a head of cabbage and still win that seat if you're this party. So if you are a interested foreign government and you want to get your guy into the House of Commons, you make sure your guy wins one of those safe seats, and you can bus in a bunch of international students that you may be holding their visas over their head as leverage to show up and vote for that person en masse, because you just have to be a dues paying member and have joined the party 41 days before the vote.
So I just wanted to bring up something that was just brought to my attention, and my chat was asking me to cover this with you, and you know I'm a crowd pleaser. Can you see the screen share I'm showing you?
I will pull that up.
Okay.
This.
Yes, Trump makes convicted drug dealer Greenland purchase poster boy. Danish press reports Timmy Zeeb served prison time for drug smuggling. On Truth Social, Trump posted a video of a man from Greenland asking him to purchase the Danish colony. You know, like, hey, Trump, please purchase us. We want to be part of America. As it turns out, the man, Timmy Zeeb, is a convicted drug dealer, according to DR News. In Trump's video post, Zeeb also seems to call Americans too fat, which Trump may have missed due to Zeeb's accent. Zeeb's reaction...
Can you just scroll up to this picture again?
There.
Yeah, okay. You know, I just wanted to see something.
Look,
you can keep reading.
Look, that's the exact mentality we need as Americans. When we're fat as fuck you, fat ass. You know, he's the perfect American.
That is actually an incredibly American sentiment, to be fat as hell and go, look at these fat asses.
Yes, it's too fat for me. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if this is the person in like a woman's replies who's like just has the existence of a love handle, says fat bitch. Like, this is him. This is him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zeeb's
all he needs are the aviator sunglasses and to be behind the driver's seat of his car.
Can we find this video of him asking to be annexed?
Is it not like it should? I thought they have the link there, like a hyperlink. Not that one.
I would imagine. Maybe it's later.
I don't know. Is that it?
That's a different one.
Video.
Zeeb's voiced support for selling the island to the United States, citing the unfair exploitation of Greenland's natural resources by Denmark. So just to have America do it? We're not going to...
Yeah.
Okay. After Trump posted the video to his millions of followers, DR News reported on Zeeb's drug dealing history. DR News contacted Trump's transition team about the man, but has not heard back. Oh my God, really?
They didn't get right back to you?
I would have thought, we got to find this.
Are you sure that's not that one with the play button? That's not the video?
No, it's like
a picture of it?
It's a picture of an article. It says DR News article.
Oh, God damn it.
You know what? We could just go to his Truth Social page.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. How often do you go and maintain your Truth Social account?
I went. I think I was on there. I think I made a Truth Social account when Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago, because I'm like, that's where.
Look at all these. Do you see this shit that he's posting? Look at this.
Oh God.
Look at this.
Holy shit.
It's just
like it's like an earworm.
It's two of them. He's multiple in a row. double barrel, man.
Yeah.
My God, where is this hero? I want to hear Timmy Zeeb. Oh no, unfortunate.
Is it not there? Because that's the other thing where like sometimes people say he posted his Truth Social, and I'll go look for it, and it's like not there. So it's like, do I not know how to use this website?
Yeah, I'm looking in my chat to see if anybody saved me there, but no, they failed me. It must be here somewhere, unless oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it.
Oh hell yeah!
Let me read it. This is Trump. This is his message attached to it. I am hearing that the people of Greenland are MAGA. My son,
more saying it.
My son, Don Jr., and various representatives will be traveling there to visit some of the most magnificent area and sites. Greenland is an incredible place, and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes part of our nation. We protect it and cherish it from a very vicious outside world. Make Greenland great again. I like the idea that he's like coming to protect the virgin lands of Greenland from a world that would do her wrong.
Because that's my immediate. It's like, who is threatening Greenland currently?
There's only one person that I can think of.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, like, if you could tell Trump anything, what would it be?
Buy us. Buy Greenland? Buy Greenland.
Why do you want Trump to buy Greenland?
Because we don't want to be colonized by Danish government anymore. We get ripped every year about our minerals from Greenland. We are the richest nation in the world, and we don't get to use it. Denmark's using us too much.
Do you like America?
I love America. But people...
He kind of sounds like he has like that like Maori news. Is he Maori? Or is that just the news? Is that the Greenland accent?
I don't know. I mean, I've been in Greenland a few times. Well, no, I've been in Iceland. Sorry, that's all the same shit. I don't know. This is a weird accent. He's a weird guy.
Interesting.
He's a weird individual. He's also a drug smuggler apparently.
Mm-hmm. But maybe like I mean, I don't know.
Future governor of Greenland in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot about Greenland, but I do know a lot about the sort of population of people that move to Alaska. And the sort of the stereotypes about them. So maybe that's kind of like what Greenland is for the rest of the world, where it's like cold Australia.
You know, I've thought about moving to Alaska because I mean, I like the idea, the wide open wilderness. I like that idea of the wide open wilderness. The government's like, 20 miles away at any time. They're not going to bother me. I got my privacy. I'll accept this stereotype. I'll accept it wholeheartedly.
I mean, I've thought about it too, but it's like I'm in Ottawa and it was it felt like -20 today. And I thought about killing myself. So I don't think we can. I don't think we're really fully comprehending how cold it would be. It's nice to think about, but the 27th of December would be just. I think that would be when you really realize whether or not you want to live in Alaska.
That's true.
When it's just a full 6 months of complete night.
Yeah, the early nights is what I really don't like. It's the worst part. I might even be able to deal with the cold, but it's the early nights that I really don't like.
Yes.
Okay, so I've gone through everything I wanted to Canada related. Okay, we had a full Canada day here at DylanBurnsLIVE. I didn't expect it ever. This is a real progressive change for me. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything that you wanted to swing at?
No, I think that's where I'm sort of my whole head's at this entire time is just sort of we're just about to figure out who our next prime minister is, and then they will immediately, most likely, their first act will be most likely to present a throne speech to reintroduce the new session of parliament, which will almost certainly be immediately defeated, and then we're going to go into an election. And this will all be while Trump is it's all going to be while Trump is sort of
not
threatening.
A great situation for Canada to be dealing with.
Very suboptimal, and so that's just sort of just please don't invade us. if that's my message to you guys, we got enough shit on our plate right now. Just give us a sec. Honestly, if you're on the sort of pro-Trump side and you think we need to invade, let Polyev have a chance. Just let him have a chance to maybe to do some stuff. You might like it.
Stuart, I live 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. If you get taken over, you have to come down here to continue to do your job. And then, we can go out, we can get coffee,
Yeah.
That could be nice. There's some positives.
It's probably a little less. It's probably not -20 in Washington, D.C. right now.
That is true. It is. Actually, we did just have a full foot of snow. It was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be the only thing that would get me to leave the Parliamentary Press Bureau, is if someone was like, "Do you want to be in the Washington Press Bureau?" And I'm like, "Nah, yeah, probably," because then I can pester even more powerful people.
So, one last thing. If what I think is going to happen, which is Trump doing this probably to try to get more negotiating power to make some sort of ask. If he was to come to Canada right now and say, look, and this is what I think would be likely, Canada has been freeloading on American defense spending, so to speak. You're spending 1.3, everybody else is spending much more as a percentage of the GDP. You got to get to 2% or 2.5%. You got to get to
the number he said was 5. So that's, I think, if that's his ask, is I won't do it. You got to get to 5%.
5% is the ask. I hear that it's his number,
and then
that
you
he's
negotiate
out there
down from there.
Yes, and the number they're negotiating down to, I hear it is 3.5. It's a lot
because we're like 1 point something. So we're not like
last time I checked.
Yeah, so 0.7% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot of money that we would have to add spending,
especially with your last deficit report.
Yeah, and fucking more icebreakers, as Trump has said, is not gonna do it. Beefed up border security is not gonna do it. Another thing that I think might be on the table that he has suggested and he's brought up in passing is we have a shit ton of fresh water. And it's a one thing that that has been sort of is states wanting to put basically a pipeline into the Great Lakes to send it down to California and Texas. And I mean, we share that water. So half of it is ours, half of it is yours. But if you know anything about water, it doesn't divide that evenly. You can't just suck up your side of the lake and it nothing will happen to ours, sort of thing. So that could be another thing where if the global climate and the threat of water wars is a thing, that could be a way we negotiate out of it, where you can have our water.
Oh, I could definitely see Trump in an era of water wars, just taking a big straw to every lake that we border with.
I drink your fucking milkshake.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that 100%.
Yeah, I think those are probably two things that we could be leading towards.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I didn't think about the water. Okay, so I've covered everything I want to cover, and I want to thank you for taking the time to stream with me today and taking time out of your extremely busy schedule, harassing people on your parliamentary hill. I don't know what you guys call it, the Moose Burrow or something.
Parliamentary Press Gallery.
The Parliamentary Press Gallery. Wow. Beautiful. Well, I don't want to take you from the beautiful world of that for much longer, so thank you so much for coming on today's stream. Hopefully if we get any more Canadian news updates, we can have you just stop by maybe for a shorter period in the future. Just tell us what's going on, something like that. And if you ever, want to talk for whatever reason, I don't know if you're interested in Ukraine for whatever reason, or a question about something else, you can message me at any time.
Yeah, no, well, let's do this again. We'll figure something out. But yeah, no, I mean, if you're looking for content, watch that Jordan Peterson Polyev thing. That's probably a good window into where Canadian politics is at right now, because he is most likely going to be the next prime minister after our next election.
Yep, the Conservatives, how well do you think they're going to perform in the election? Do you think they're going to have a majority that, like, there's nothing that anyone can really do?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think, like, even going past that next election, I think it will be maybe at like almost close to another decade before we see another party in power, if they win as well as they're going to win. We'll say it'll be like a 9, almost 10 years
That's
of
a
Trudeau.
lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how the parliamentary system works. Like, you had, like, I mean, what was Angela Merkel? How long was she in power?
I mean, she was in power for a bit, but I mean, there was elections in there, wasn't there? It wasn't that, just like constantly dominated because she won one election particularly well. It was a bunch of elections that they performed.
Yeah, no, but that's what Trudeau did. So Trudeau won in 2015 with a large majority. So that gave him 4 years in power.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2019 election, he won again with a smaller minority. So not a full majority, but more seats than anyone else. So he became prime minister again. 2 years later, called another election, won that with a even smaller minority, but still the most seats. And then this one is finally, he's going to have fewer. So I think that you could see the same thing with Poilievre. So he's going to win a huge, massive majority, have 4 years for sure. And then the next election, they might even have enough where they could have another majority. So that's 8. And then, but then, like, so it's at least probably 6 years before we would see anywhere close to a new party challenging for the prime ministership.
Damn.
So get used to Poilievre. He's probably going to be around for a while.
Well, what type of priorities does he have? Is there anything that should be concerning at all?
I don't think concerning for America. I think probably if most Americans hearing his stuff would probably be fairly amenable to it. His sort of like, he sort of has like his carbon plan is to send more liquid natural gas out to get rid of dirty dictator oil.
Dirty dictator oil. Is that what he calls it?
Yes.
Wow.
He loves his alliterations and his little rhyming patterns.
Dirty dictator oil.
Yes. Axe the tax, stop the crime, fix the budget, bring it home. He's got so many.
Very simple, very to the point, very easy to understand.
Very tweetable, very bite-sized, very much of the time of like a very, very effective at communicating.
I'm sure the left has some, comparable option that is not just the long diatribe that doesn't know when to stop.
In Canada, no.
Of course.
Here's the thing, we're like a good analogy, and I think so. Like on Parliament Hill, that they all throw like different receptions, and the joke was, you go to a conservative party to get drunk, you go to a liberal party to get laid, and a NDP, which are the leftist parties, you go to their parties to get a pamphlet. And what has changed is I don't think the liberals are getting laid anymore. I think the conservatives are getting drunk and laid, and the NDP are still just handing out pamphlets.
Damn.
So yeah, it's not like if you're a leftist in Canada, I don't know what they don't have much to be happy about. I think probably the most famous.
I heard they couldn't they become the opposition if things go well?
No, the separatist Bloc Québécois are most likely to become the opposition.
Damn.
Which is going to be wild.
What does that mean? I mean, that they don't like solidly fall anywhere on the political spectrum, like left or right, do they?
They fall on we are for Quebec.
Yeah, that's my point.
So they're like more of
as an opposition. That's kind of weird to think about.
It's weird where they're like a nationalist party, but like for like a very specific part of Canada, which they would say is not part of Canada. It's a nation within a nation. But so like they have their stuff where it's like they're very secularist, which can be coded as right wing because they're like sort of they support the
burqa bans and
hijab,
stuff like that.
the burqa ban in Quebec and the hijab ban. But then they're also like, we need to bring in more money for seniors, or they'll do like they'll be, even with supporting the burqa ban, be one of the most empathetic to the Palestinian cause parties outside of the NDP and the Greens, which is they'll just throw the like weird out of left field, or sometimes surprisingly out of right field things. So yeah, that will be very interesting because they care about Quebec and Quebec sovereignty and Quebec nationalism and French and maintaining French.
Maintaining the French.
Our French values are under attack. Like one of their sort of gotcha questions they'll do to the government all the time, be like, do you believe French is in decline in Quebec? And then if they say anything other than absolutely, it's with the Quebec, French is about to die out in Quebec, they get pilloried. So
damn,
that'll be very fun. So
my goodness. Well, you know what? I'm excited to see your country dominated by the conservatives and the French. Good luck. Good luck.
It's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited.
Thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you?
I'm Left Hand Stew on basically all of my social media. So Left Hand Stew on Twitch and Twitter. And then you can also find me on at thehilltimes.com. That's where I publish. I'm on the Wednesday schedule. So I usually publish 2 stories every Wednesday. Yeah, so you check me out there if you can afford the nearly $8 a week subscription, which I wouldn't advise, but sometimes there's free stuff.
Good luck. Good luck, man.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Later days.
Boom. Done. Very long talk on Canada. Now I never have to talk about Canada again. That's what all of this was motivated by. Like, Dylan, why did you do so I never have to talk about Canada again? Because this is probably the biggest Canada news days we're going to see for a while, with Trudeau going down and Trump threatening all this.